Okay, good evening all. Let's start off with a quick call to order, perhaps starting Richard, if you would identify and we'll go through.
Glenn Archambault.
Paul Oline. Turn that off. Fred Ruhlman.
Frank Alleman,
Jaylee Stokes.
Sarah Chamberlain.
thank you. Citizen statements, comments, would you like to say anything? No? Thank you very much. Okay. Approval of the minutes, folks, for the regular meeting. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. You second? Thank you. Oh, Paul seconded. Thank you.
It's like Jeopardy, I hit the button.
Any changes, any thoughts, anything about them, or are they all okay? Motion to accept?
You just have to
Everybody?
call for a vote.
Yeah, you just have to call for a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, in favor. Fine. We move on to new business, the meeting with Patrick Ibarro, who is a consultant, and I hope he will about get onto the screen. Let's see what happens.
Still updating, but you can still have a conversation with them.
Okay.
You can still talk.
Can you see me?
Oh, we can hear you, can't see you. Okay.
I'm not sure. My camera's on, so I'm not sure what's going on. Let me try something. It says I'm not.
No, your camera is fine. It is one of our computers that shows on our TVs is just updating, so they can't see you, but only shortly. It'll pop up very soon for them to see you, but you can still have a conversation now.
Okay.
Thank you for
All right.
attending. Okay, hold on.
Absolutely.
Thank you for attending, Patrick. We look
Of
forward.
course.
You've suggested that perhaps some of our folks have got questions. So I'm going to open it up to all the members of the committee who wish to ask questions and do so, each of you within your time. Is anybody would like to start asking questions? Paul, you had originally suggested perhaps that we should speak to the consultant.
And Patrick, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I think one of the
Sure.
concerns, not necessarily a concern, is I struggle a little bit with the amount of feedback that we have received from the community. We have a population of around 17,000 people. We've done a number of different outreaches in terms of like a community meeting, attending community nights. Certainly have had a lot of feedback and input from various business organizations and town departments, and those are all been great. But I think right now we stand at about roughly 115 responses to people who have filled out our questionnaire or our survey. My question to you is, in your opinion, and we've been going on 8 months, I would say, roughly, that we've really done an active outreach. For a community our size, where would you expect the percentage to be in terms of responses, or the quantity of responses be? Are we trailing or trending behind, or are we about average?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to address that. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to be with all of you tonight and offer my point of view, working with governments across the country on visioning, strategic planning, that whole ecosystem. So I've reviewed the level of activities that you've had for community outreach, and I think it's been outstanding for the number of events, groups, the time you've all committed to gather input. I would say you're in good company. I've worked with cities much larger than Killingly, and they have fewer numbers than you. And I know that can be frustrating at your end when you're trying to get people to submit their input, and you're at all these different events. I would say, and it seems as though in reviewing the input, there's some common themes that have emerged about what people enjoy about the community and what they want to see on the horizon. And as I try to recommend to my clients, at some point you sort of have to move on to the. You've done your best to gather input.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still there?
I am. We are. I'm sorry. Oh,
Are you still there?
okay.
I lost the picture.
Somebody turn on their microphone and tell them yes.
Hello.
We can hear you.
And we can see you.
Still there?
Yes, we are.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
We can hear you.
and see you.
Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
We can
'cause I
see
can't
and hear you.
Great, okay. All right, thank you.
Now we can.
Feel comfortable that you did your best to gather that input, summarize that into themes like you're trying to do, and then move on to the next step. So I would say you're in good company. 115 is more than you would have had if you didn't do anything. Is it ever enough? I'm not sure there's ever enough. At some point, it's a bit redundant because the input tends to reflect what you've heard from other people, so.
And that's what I was
there'll
trying
always
to
be people who said
understand
nobody-
was that point of diminishing returns.
Yeah, I think so. And at some point, there'll always be people in communities who say, well, I didn't know. And you do all those events, there'll always be, nobody told me, I didn't know about the events. And they'll want to diminish the process because somebody didn't show up on their door and knock on the door and say, hey, would you like your input? So I think you've done outstanding to do targeted outreach. And I would suggest that you summarize that and move on to the next step of crafting that vision and then sharing it. And so just final point to that is sometimes communities get a lot more feedback once they have something to share. So that draft vision you want to share or the themes you share may generate more feedback because now people have something to scrub and react to. At this point, the reaction is simply to questions. And sometimes that's just not compelling to people because it
Yeah,
seems a
that's-
little bit abstract. I'm just sharing with you what I found in working with governments across the country.
And I appreciate it because really what I was looking for was a benchmark that
Yeah, and-
we can say that, where we need to be. And you're absolutely right. It is a matter of trends developing. They're repeating themselves, which is why they're trends. I'll let other people ask some questions, but I've got a few, another one down the road.
Sure,
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Awesome. Okay, so I was just curious with your experience, do vision committees seem to maybe start projects while they're collecting information? Like, for example, we're working on a website to help promote events in our area.
Yes, I think sometimes you're trying to do things concurrently. I would say, because you're all volunteers, and you all know this well, don't overwhelm any one person or the entire committee trying to do things. Better to do a few things well than trying to do a lot of things okay. They sound good in merit, but once it comes to implementation, because like with a website, who's going to maintain and monitor that? And you all know that if people go to the website, the information is dated, they'll stop visiting the website. So I would just say, really take a good hard look before whatever those concurrent activities you undertake to say, are there resources committed to sustaining that to where it stays relevant in the minds of the viewer, or whatever outlets you have. Being very selective about that. I hope that helps.
Just for a little clarification, you would suggest that we're at the point where we should begin to put together our report and then put that out in front of the public or just in front of the town council?
I would say go back to the town council first, because in some respects, they're a key client in this regard. That they could be an advocate. I know you met with them last month and it seemed like you get good feedback. I would keep them plugged in there and share with them the summary of the report. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, and I always advise clients, what are the themes that emerged? What did you find, reaffirming that you already knew? Maybe what were some outliers that you think are legitimate? Some of this is interpretive, right? It's not always because two people said it, you sort of have to weigh, okay, only two people said that, good, bad, or indifferent. But I would try to translate that into trends, generate some themes, put together a concise report, share that with the town council as your first bet or your first undertaking, get their reaction, and share with them at that point what you plan to do going forward, so they can be supportive of whatever steps you intend to take after that. I wouldn't ask them what they think you should do. I would give them a suggestion, much like you've done up to this point, what you think you should do after you share the report with them.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as like communication goes, can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Okay, well, so as far as communication goes with our town, we've had a lot of feedback saying basically there are other ways that we could be, like for social media, for example, to be able to expose like what events we have going on and advertising local business events and things like that in our area. So what are other places doing as far as spreading the word and communicating with their town?
Well, I think it really is, it depends on how aggressive they want to be. I've seen organizations take on a lot to where they're trying to be an advocate and put so much information out on social media that at some point they saturate people with it. So I think you want to be selective to say, what's the role of this vision committee? You know, there's special events, which I think is sort of an addendum to what you're doing, the way I understand it, not necessarily the core function. So I would say try to be thoughtful about what you're trying to put on social media. Again, it's all about sustaining it. Who's going to support it? Who's going to monitor the traffic? Getting the information out. How do you drive traffic? I see, you know, all my clients are governments. They tend to say, well, we put it on the website. My question is, who's driving traffic to the website? How appealing is that to the people that are going to read it? And then social media, you know, not everybody's on Facebook, as we know. So some governments are trying to use Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok. There's so many platforms. I would caution you, try not to be all things to all people, because again, you got to support all those channels, and who's going to do that? So I would say try to do a few things well and ask for feedback through those, to say, ask people, where do they get information? And candidly, with the demographics of Killingly and what I see with communities across the country, sometimes it's the old fashioned paper. You know, people want to hold something. Not everybody's online. So I assume you receive some of that feedback to say, we want to talk to people. We want to get something in the mail. So again, who's going to produce that report? Who's going to distribute that report? Who's going to monitor that? There's a lot of kind of the behind the scenes, as you all know, all up to this point, how do you resource it? So I keep coming back to do a few things, do them well, get the feedback, and then sustain that, as opposed to government tends to try to do all things to all people. And then they find out, and then they get upset because people aren't responding. It's like sometimes they saturate the market because they're everywhere, but in some respects, when they're everywhere, they're nowhere. So keep in mind, you're trying to meet people where they are. So if I can leave you with anything, I'm not finishing up, but if I can give you any advice, and I live outside of Portland, Maine, in Cumberland. We just moved there 3 years ago, and we know, and our community has similar challenges to what your community does too. And I have clients in the Northeast, all over the country. But I think what I try to advise clients is to think of your residents not as residents, but think of them as demographics. And when you think of your residents as demographics, and you think of older people, where are they hanging out? Where are they getting their news? Where are middle-aged, maybe family, you know, people that are raising their family, where are they getting their information? Where are young people? So when you start to think about them as demographics, then it starts to help you sharpen your, not only the message, but the delivery mechanism that you're using to get in front of them. Which is a little bit unconventional, because sometimes it's one size fits all. Let's do everything for everybody, and assuming that that's called spray and pray, as opposed to trying to be more targeted. Again, I hope that helps you just thinking through those channels you want to use.
Yeah, so Patrick, thank you again for your time. So my concern since day one, I think others share it, is just like what when you think about the output, right? And we want to develop something that's not going to sit on a shelf.
Right.
You know, so in your experience, looking at the questions we've asked, what's the level of depth and what's the right format that you felt has been most effective to convey a town's vision to its leadership team? Is it, you know, is it matrix, you know, rubrics? Is it, you know, you don't want to give them war and peace, but at the same time, you don't want bullets that just say, you know, safer
Yeah.
streets, better schools. So what's your thoughts on output?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I always advise clients to, the vision is really a destination you never realize. It's a bit of the poetry. When you think about the future of Killingly, you know, what comes to mind? People think in images. So what kind of image are you crafting in that vision? What do you want people to interpret when they read the vision? It should be both inspirational and aspirational. So there is some level of poetry to it. And I always advise organizations to avoid the kitchen sink syndrome, which means we've all read vision statements that go on and on and on and on, and nobody remembers them. If nobody remembers them, they're not going to use them. So I would encourage you to keep the vision to be concise, clear, and compelling. It should give people a lift. It shouldn't, so people go, well, what questions? It's a conversation starter. Don't think of it as a conversation finisher. Think of the vision as a conversation starter. For example, a vision that for clients of mine, you know, I just finished some work in Fair Oaks Ranch, Texas, which is outside of San Antonio, where I'm the one with the accent. And there's a very affluent community north of San Antonio, kind of a different types in Texas, where it's almost 96% residential. So they said, we want to be the ideal place that people call home in the hill country. That's it. Ideal. That conjures up an image, right? Ideal. Call home. Think of that with that. I'm just sharing that with you. Call Home has a certain vibe, does it not? And then in the Hill Country, which is part of North San Antonio, they call it the Hill Country. So we want to be the ideal home, or we want to be the ideal place people call home in the Hill Country. Now, getting to that required a lot of spitballing, a lot of big spaghetti making. They threw a lot of things up on the wall. My role with that group is I'm a shepherd, I'm a flashlight and a mirror. But to get to that, it took a lot of work to narrow it down to be really concise, clear, and compelling. People can remember that. It gives people a sense of optimism and aspiration and inspiration. And again, so I think people go, well, what does that mean? Well, great. Thanks so much for asking. Let's talk about what that means. This is what we're trying to do as a community to pursue that vision. And it seems a little bit counterintuitive because historically people think the vision should answer all the questions. My advice is it should create a conversation. I hope that helps you just in how you're crafting the language, that not to go on and on and on. That, again, the kitchen sink syndrome, where it's just, it sounds all good, but man, it's so many words. People aren't going to remember it. And candidly, if people can't remember it, they're not going to use it.
Just a quick follow-up, Patrick, though. So we have had, it's been a great education, right? But we've had people express ideas that we think are good ideas. Is part of the vision to share recommendations, or
Yes.
is that more of an appendix that gets delivered after the fact?
What I would encourage you to do is think about maybe 2 versions of the vision that you want to share with the community and ask for feedback. Right? Give people something to scrub and react to. Here's version 1, here's version 2. Craft it, change some language, however you want to convey that, and then ask for the public. Don't ask them to vote. Never ask people to vote, because then all of a sudden you're weighed down because people will stuff the ballot box. Well, 83 people said they liked Vision 1 when it was really 2 people that submitted it 40 times. People do that, and they sort of game the system. So just ask people, give us some feedback. What do you like about Vision 1? What do you like about Vision 2? Or version 1, what do you like about version 2? And then gather some feedback. And then see what kind of, not that you're asking people to vote again, because then you're bound by, people, 80 people, whatever that might be. Then that ties your hands, and I don't think you want to do that.
Hey, Patrick.
So maybe, go ahead.
Welcome aboard. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
Before today's meeting, I went through and looked at our 2020 survey done by the Planning Commission, and looking at what people wanted and what they thought we should be doing. The reality is a lot of the things overlap. Now, the real problem, though, well, besides the fact that they're still there, is how can we work from our vision into the point where we can make these real?
Well, I think that's a really good opportunity to explore how does this vision connect with what does the city council or what does the town council see this vision as a device to help them do as a community builder. So, right, we know town councils, people run on solutions. They don't run on questions. So when people, and I work with a lot of elected officials because I'm a line tamer, but I'm not a magician. I'll let you draw your own conclusion from that. So elected officials tend to have their own version of what the community should be doing, right? You all know that. I'm sure you know many of the council members as well. I think you want to try to present this to them as a device to help them be more intentional about the community they're trying to preserve and build into the future, right? That's a device for them to kind of partnering with the town manager and the staff. How do they then translate this vision into goals and objectives? And I don't know enough about the organization to see how that might fit. You all know that way better. But I think that's the key to a vision. A vision without execution is hallucination. You may have heard that phrase. So I think you want to start to advise the council that you see this vision as a device to help them build a stronger community, and that you see how this can help them translate the vision into goals and objectives. You're not saying what the goals and objectives should be. You're creating the straw man for them to reference it.
Would it be appropriate in our vision report to ask the town to conduct a study for grants and funding to accomplish some of the things that we need? For example, the Historical Commission, a lot of people have said it's inadequate. It's an amazing facility, but it's not user-friendly. And they have said that back in 2020 and again in this most recent report. But we do need somebody going after, in my opinion, grants
to get things done. Because, what?
Like any town does.
Like any town does.
Right.
And the town that I left, Providence, they did a whole lot with grants. But
Right.
it was also a lot more money.
Yeah, I think it's how do you make the rationale to say, you know, candidly, the town staff is not waiting for more work to come from some other entity, right? They're just not. No disrespect to what you're doing, absolutely not, but they're busy keeping core services in place. So I think you have to think about how do you thread that needle to say, what role do you play? And how do you end up funding some of those capital improvements, whatever that might be, historical preservation, or a new public facility, whatever. I think you have to think about what's your role in advising them? And how does the vision fit into that? So I would say, you know, come up with recommendations. Just be ready to, what's plan B if council says, we don't have the capacity to do that. Now what? You know, that's perfectly within their lane to say, we think this is good stuff, but we don't have the resources to make this happen. So what are some other options? I think a conversation with the town council and the town manager would be crucial for you all to have to say, how does this incorporate into what they're already doing? So they see this as a device to help them, not add more work for them.
Hi, Patrick.
Yeah,
So, more so on a topic that I've seen,
Yeah.
how have you seen vision committees keep a small town feeling rural when the industrial part keeps trying to come in? How do you see any topics that they've dealt with the committee? Anything with that? Because I feel like we do get a lot of industrial wanting here, but to keep it still a small town where you know everybody and you can keep the small community. So have you seen committees deal with that?
I think that's a great point, and I see that a lot in communities like yours where and so think of this, it's a duality where you can do both. It's not a dichotomy where it's one or the other. So how do you reserve the lifestyle that people enjoy there in Killingly, at the same time embrace a future? I'm not saying I'm not being pro-industrial, right? I'm not saying that at all. But how do you look at the vibrancy of the community going forward without it damaging the lifestyle that people enjoy? That's a delicate dance in a lot of communities. So I don't think it's as simple of do this or do that. I think you have to think about, you know, it gets into land use, zoning, restrictions, a lot of things the town council can do. What kind of businesses and industries are they targeting? What kind are they encouraging? What kind are they saying no to? What are job creators? I mean, and candidly, you know, towns are based on, you know, the money, the budget is the gasoline in the engine, if you will, to drive the community. So they're trying to balance community needs and the past also with the future economically. And it doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, we turn into industrial. All of a sudden it just looks unsightly and it's incompatible with the rest of the community. But that's a duality. How can the vision help shape both of those, and what's the council trying to do in both spaces? It gets a little bit more complicated, right? Because they're trying to both not live in the past, they're trying to embrace the future. And that's awkward. And it is for communities of all sizes, by the way. It's not just do this or do that. It's how do you make sure and maintain a vibrant economic portfolio for the community to generate revenue to provide town services, at the same time not damage the lifestyle that people enjoy the most. And again, so it doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, it's retail clutter and there's signs all over the place and it's hideous and there's smokestacks. You know, that's the worst case scenario. But you can do it in a tasteful way, in a thoughtful way, in a pragmatic way. That has a lot to do with the town council and their preference and their desire about building standards and development standards and all those sorts of notions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Piggyback on what Sarah's point, but the common theme we see is maintain rural, maintain rural, maintain rural. And what I like what Patrick is saying, and I seem to remember from the first mission or our first marching orders was to provide us guidelines, town council, right? To provide us what does the community think we should be going in. And I do think, again, I'm hearing a lot of real good things that we are in the place that we're supposed to be. But that's a great question. It's one thing, okay, how do we convey that information other than people saying, well, we just want it rural? And that's going to be an interesting task. All of these are going to be interesting tasks.
Well, and I would encourage you to think about, you know, there's an old saying in government, public policy is made by those who show up. So sometimes surveys get tilted to a particular demographic, and it seems as though, that may seem as though the community, that's what the community represents. I would take that with a little bit of grain of salt. It's the old Henry Ford comment who said if I'd asked people what they wanted, they just said faster horses. So a lot of it is who you ask, right? And what their desire is. If you ask somebody who's 35 in Killingly that's raising a family, they may like rural, but they also are worried about their economic future. What's the future look like for this community, for my kids, for my own lifestyle? I'm just sharing that with you. So rural means different things to different people. How do you maintain that lifestyle at the same time staying economically relevant? You know, in Maine, where I live, we have the highest median age in the country at 45. Utah's the youngest at 25. 1 out of every 4 residents in Maine is 65 or older. So we export younger people, we import older people. That has, as you all know, that has challenging economic impacts. So we hear this a lot in Maine. We like the way things are. That's great. How do you keep the way things are and also embrace a future that might be slightly different than the way it's been? That doesn't mean it has to be bad, but it may be slightly different, especially economically. For jobs of the future, all of those sorts of dimensions. I'm just sharing that with you as a point of view. You're trying to kind of reconcile different points of view. You're not saying who's right and wrong, but to maintain that vibrancy of the community.
Let's see if okay, I got the microphone on. One item I just wanted to review that everyone may not have seen or seen recently is in the original study for land development, commercial, 51% of the people did not want more commercial. And land for development for industrial, 57% did not want industrial. Recreational facilities, on the other hand, were up to 77%, and local historic districts were 60%. And one of the things that we found and the original study found was that the people liked Killingly because of the rural nature of the community and its historical features and the fact that it is very easy to get around. It's a very comfortable town. And I just wanted to bring up some of those statistics that are not in our own survey just because of the way they're summarized.
Yeah.
Okay.
And without, and I take that on face value, I just a point of clarification here. And this sounds really kind of wonkish or something. You know, if you've ever taken a statistics class that you might like to forget, there is some science to doing surveys. There's community outreach and there's doing surveys. I think what you've been doing is community outreach. So it's based on the feedback that you're getting. And that's cool. When you do a survey, there is some science to it to make sure the sample is valid. And again, I know that sounds a little wonkish, but I've seen organizations trip over themselves saying, well, 70% of the people, yeah, well, you did a survey and it was the people who responded to the survey, which may not have necessarily been a representative sample of the community. I'm just, again, sharing that with you. So you don't end up tilting at windmills where some communities do. They say, well, 70% of the people said this. Well, what was the number of respondents? And was it just based on people that saw it online? And I know that gets a little bit wonkish and a little difficult, but I've seen organizations end up chasing down things because 5 people said it, but the percentage was so high, they felt as though that was representative of the community. You all are plugged into the community. I mean, I would encourage you to rely on your own instincts, your own observations, your own judgments. When you look at that data and say, how does that weigh with the people that you know in your own point of view? And if it's compatible with how you see the view, with how you see Killingly, that's great. If you see that they're outliers, maybe it's worth exploring to say, are those outliers really reflective of the community's mindset? Or are those people that just don't want things to change? Well, some of this is about change, and some people just don't want change.
Want to bring us up maybe to real time, going from what are percentages to what's happening in the past week or 2 weeks. There's been a proposal for a distribution facility with a lot of tractor trailers, and it has prompted threats to the town, and they've had meetings, no trucks. So somewhere along the way, those percentages are turning into reality. But I do understand what you were saying. And just in this particular instance, People are becoming very vocal.
I'm sure they are, yeah. And nothing changes public policy like when all of a sudden something's on the agenda and then people react to it. Absolutely. Good, bad, or indifferent, people react to it.
Okay. Okay. Hi, it's me again. So
Yes.
as we were, we kind of got kicked off with Paul bringing up our, like our progress. So as far as like being really efficient and effective with gathering our information with our community outreach, what are like some strategies that you found to be like efficient and effective for other towns? Like for example, we go to events and we're going to be going to an Easter egg hunt and we're going to be doing a free raffle, and I think we're going to be using some of our budget to be getting Easter baskets for the kids, and we're going to have our survey at the event with the QR code, and also I
Great.
believe paper copies. Yeah.
I think those are all wonderful. I would encourage you to give yourself a deadline to say, we're done with community outreach by whatever the date that is, and say, at that point, we're going to gather all the input, we're going to sort through it, see what themes emerge, and identify what are the major themes that coming out from that, and then start to help you craft where do you go next. Maybe from that, what I've seen with groups is they start to craft a vision from that. And it's, again, a little bit messy. So think of the process as not always efficient. I advise my clients, visioning is not efficient. It should be productive. Efficient would be this group right here over coffee and donuts of an evening, crafting the vision and then sharing it. So keep in mind, a shared vision isn't the same thing as a vision shared. So part of this is the process is as important as the product. So I think for all the community events you've done and you've got on the horizon, at some point I would just say, we're done with that stage. We've gathered the input. We're developing into themes. From the themes, you craft a draft vision, share it with the town council, say we're going to put it out there for public scrubbing, maybe a version 1 and a version 2. You get the feedback from that. And I would not do nearly the extensive feedback that you've done up to this point on those versions. I would do it primarily maybe online, different channels. And then from that, you come up with a recommendation to share with the town council. Here's the version, the vision that we believe is most representative of the future of our community. Again, it's not a science project, so you're not trying to say how many people liked it. And when you put it out there for public scrubbing, you still have to use your own judgment to say, well, we appreciate your input. At the same time, we're the visioning committee and we're trying to exercise our own judgment. I mean, so it does come down to your own judgment to say, we appreciate that input. And while 4 people said they don't like that word, we still think, based on our own interpretation and our own experience and our own community, this is what we think is most appropriate for the future of our community. Because I hope that helps you just get comfortable with a little bit of this ambiguity.
Yeah, one of my little side projects, so to speak, the communities that you're involved in, what is the role or the input that they go out and seek from large employers in town, or do they not bother?
No, we do, and that's a great, we'll do targeted outreach when I'm working with cities and counties. We'll do target stakeholders. So we'll contact people in faith-based organizations, nonprofits, the business organizations, social service organizations. We target them specifically because their input, not that it's more valuable than the general public, but they tend to pay attention to things in the community a little bit different than the typical resident. They just do. It's not better or worse, but they're just paying attention to things. And so I think factoring that input into as you do if you gather that from certain segments of the community, how you weigh that going forward in the themes.
Okay.
And if you hear a lot from the business community, that people that are credible, then it may give you some time to pause and reflect. Or faith-based organizations or whomever else, I would stratify that input by those groups so you really can drill down into what are the people that represent the business organizations, or how about people that represent the school districts or nonprofits? Because again, they're all key community players in building the community of the future. And you just, not that it's better or worse, but you weigh their input a little bit differently.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the things that you've told us, and some of the stuff I had a conversation with you previously, as you know, and certainly I'm aware of what you're saying. And first of all, that we need a good vision. I'm aware of that. Short, to the point, and get it checked out. Absolutely, that's there too. It needs to be a viable plan, something that the town feels they can do and can. We are very aware here of the let's say, two-sided question about business, industrial development versus the rurality of the town. It's a delicate question, and I think we all on the committee here are very aware of that and what's going on. How we handle it is a different issue at this point, but we will do a lot of discussion on that. Also very aware, and we will discuss tonight, a deadline for information input, and say that's it, folks. I have a list tonight that I'll distribute to say here are groups we haven't seen. We have, as I pointed out to you at the time, we have actually gone to educational institutions, social institutions, we've spoken to business institutions. I think we've done reasonably well, and after this, we go over this list tonight, finalizing them. I personally feel fairly confident that we've covered the town fairly adequately, okay? There will always, as you say, be a person or a group saying, you never came to us or something. Well, okay, we've done the best we can.
Right.
So other than that, you have some very good points here, and also that we must form a close liaison with the council, keeping them up to date on a good basis so that they agree with us as we're going along. So
Yep.
I've tried to summarize what folks have said. Are there any other comments? Yes, Sarah.
Have you seen many vision committees performing a 5 to 10 year plan, and how do they show that in any of their documentation?
Yeah, I would say, based on the events in the last 25 years that we've all experienced, most communities look at a 5-year vision.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the further out you go, the more ambiguous it is. It seems a little bit overly ideal, and then it's not very compelling. So I think that, you know, I would encourage you to think about, as you discussed, the vision is, as I say, is a destination you never achieve. So think about a vision as helping the community pursue its potential. So if I were to ask you, what's Killing Lee's potential? I would use this as kind of the litmus test for how you craft the vision, right? And it's not instructional. It's a little bit more poetic, as I said. But then it's how do you translate that vision into action? And that's where the town, as an organization, with the town council's endorsement, translating that into goals and objectives. And I would see that's not so much your role as the role of the town council, partnering with the town manager, and how that's going to affect both, you know, the organization. Because candidly, typically, it's the town organization that's the driver, the pursuer of the vision through the council. You obviously play a role, but you don't have the resources to execute goals and objectives for infrastructure or amenities or all those other sort of community-centric town government operations. So I think that's where that partnership, how you maybe hand that off, and you can be a support mechanism to endorse the creation and execution of the vision.
Okay. Jelly.
I hope that helps you just how your role could, how you find your niche there. You obviously already have found that, and I'm sure the council appreciates that you're running interference and doing the legwork for it. And then as you sort of transition and hand that off to them as be a partner, giving them some suggestions about how this is going to help them and the community at large, I should say. But it can't just go onto the town's website and doesn't that sound good? And, you know, they put it on business cards, because the question will be from residents is, that sounds good. What are we doing to pursue it? And I think that's a fair question for residents.
That's one we're very aware of. I have some
Yeah.
ideas how we can do that perhaps later for further discussion. But Jelly.
Okay.
I was just curious about what other vision committees are using their budgets on.
They do it for, like you've done, for community outreach, for materials, for resources, for bringing in consultants like myself to kind of help facilitate the process. Crafting surveys, gathering that information. A lot of the work that you've been doing, that's kind of where they devote their budget to, is for resources, information, materials.
Okay. Any other, Jelly, sorry.
No, you're fine. I have a lot of stuff. Okay. And I just had 2 more questions. So, as far as like the duration of each person serving on a vision committee, like what's the typical amount of time? Is it just like a year for each person, or is it a couple years, or how does Is
It,
there like
it
a
really
standard?
varies based on the organization, you know, how, your charter and what you've been formed to do. Sometimes they're a year, sometimes they're less. Um, there's no hard, fast rules about that. I think it's whatever you're comfortable with. Continuity helps, right? It's also, and I think the challenge is, candidly, sometimes when you have new faces around the table, I'm speaking generally, sometimes when you have new faces around the table, all of a sudden people want to put everything under the microscope because they weren't there to create it. So that can really slow the progress when there's too much turnover on any committee. Because people they join it and they say, well, where have we been? And if they don't know the history of a group, they sometimes want to start over. So they want to feel comfortable with whatever they're going to recommend. And that's just the nature of people. I do it with elected officials are the same way, committees are the same way. So I just think I would encourage you to think about continuity. That could be a good thing. Helps you keep moving, maintains your momentum. Sometimes new faces, sometimes put everything back under the microscope and they go, well, why are we doing this? And why are we doing that? Look, we covered that. We need to keep moving because if not, we lose momentum and then you can lose credibility.
My last thing. So on other vision committees, do they have people on the actual committee that aren't living in town, but they have a business in town?
Sometimes they do. Yeah. People that have a vested interest in the future of the community. Sometimes it's people that represent, you know, the chamber or the school district or a small business community. So it may be a small business owner that may not live in the community, but they own a small, you know, whatever that might be. So absolutely. Sometimes there's I've worked with visioning committees where there's a combination of business members, elected officials, staff members of the town or the city. So it really depends on the appetite about how they want to compose, you know, what they want that to comprise. I think, and I always advise clients to keep it to 10 or 12 people, no more than that, because after that it becomes unwieldy. So I think your size is good. But again, it's really what your appetite is. I don't mean to beg off on that, but it's not one size fits all. And I try to be very flexible with my clients to say, what's going on in this community? What do you see as credible? Because candidly, sometimes it has to do with the people on those committees. Are they credible? Are they influential in the community? Are people going to give that group credence? And sometimes it's the people you've all known that. Some groups form and no one on there has any influence. So when their recommendation comes out, people don't have faith in the recommendation because people didn't necessarily support the people that were on it. That's just the nature of people's interpretation.
Yeah, one last thing.
Sure.
Glenn had mentioned kind of like legacy. That's what we were talking about. How many communities have you run into where the product has been turned over to the town council, the city council? Do any communities keep the vision committee intact to either monitor feedback, continue to do it, or is it usually, you know, we wipe our hands, we get our T-shirts, and we're done?
They usually are going forward. They're not they don't stay intact. They've sort of played their role. They provided the recommendation to the town council and then they sort of step back from it. So that's what I find. Not to say that should work for you. I mean, every place is different, but I think you have to think about
I have some
what's your
thoughts
role
on
going
that.
forward.
Sorry, Paul. I have some thoughts on that we'll discuss afterwards already. Okay.
What's been beneficial
It's a good one, yes.
Somebody has been elsewhere to see.
I can't hear anybody, just so you know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate your
Absolutely.
input, and I'm sure at some point we'll get back to you if we need further information and some help in putting it all together. So we appreciate your coming and talking to us tonight.
Absolutely. I hope this was helpful to you, just to help offer a point of view, and let me know what I can do going forward.
Already
all so
there's
much.
some
Continued
good
success to
ideas
you.
here. I thank you again,
Thank you. Have a good evening and a good meeting.
and the same to you, Patrick. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, can I,
Fred, you wanted to say something?
yeah, you
No.
gotta turn.
Yeah.
Frank and I have already been talking about a target to shift from input to export. Before we get to that, I want to hear, he mentioned that second, a different point of view from the business people. I want to hear that. You've gone to the point of making these letters. I think it's important that we get at least a small sample of that. We already did the secular that he talked about. We've reached out to the public. We've had a town-wide hearing at the library. I think it's time we get that second input from you or from your idea. And we start to put this thing together. Frank has a definite idea on when we would make the move from gathering. And from my point of view, that doesn't mean that we can't get some amount of still input if it comes available while we're putting this together. But I definitely want that, that business.
Yeah, I do think. Yes, you're right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Paul, you are pursuing the letter with
Yes.
the business persons
Yes.
that you think are appropriate. The more you can get, the better.
And I think,
And let's immediately focus in on something that we've been talking about and being suggested. You reach a point when we've gathered data, folks, that's it. It's time to pull it together. I am going to suggest, we originally talked the end of June. I'm going to say, let's aim for the end of May and have everything in we can. If there's something very urgent that we didn't do after that, okay, we can still do that. But it seems to me that's a reasonable amount of time, bearing in mind we have a lot of good information already, absolutely.
And also, if we do, turn yours up. Also, if we do what he suggested in that, put together a preliminary and run it by the town council, if we do that at the end of May and we have to adjust things, that still gives us all the way till December to get that done and to get it done to our satisfaction.
The only thought, let me just add to that, his idea, which I like very much, is that we must create a few vision statements. And his suggestion was to try it out somewhere on the public. One of the suggestions here on the list that I should be on here, I hope, is another public meeting. And maybe that would be the opportunity to try and present the 2 or 3 vision statements that we have. I was going through a lot of notes that I have been looking through, and then I was starting to pull together some vision statements, and I'm aware of what he said, short and to the point. Okay? So how about at this stage, if everybody agrees, let's move on to the sheet that I've just handed out to you, that I made of groups that we have not seen yet. Do we need to see all of these, or have some of these been covered in other ways? Or are there some here that should be on there? I added, other than the town meeting, giving the Chamber of Commerce one more chance, okay? Because we've not really got any input from business.
You mean the KBA, not the chamber, right?
Yes. Come to us, go to us. You had a person that might be able to come.
Yeah.
We can't force them, but if they're not going to be here, they're out. It's very simple.
I could be wrong, but I thought in the very beginning, when they were either at a meeting that we were at, I thought they kind of named their 4 or 5 things that's important to them. And I didn't really see the reason for bringing them back. I know we invited them, but I think, I can go back and check my notes or check meeting, but I kind of thought they said what they had to say. Maybe I'm wrong.
But they didn't come to our meeting.
They didn't come to our meeting, but I think,
And I went to their meeting. And there was nothing. I got no comments at all.
I would suggest, if we're gonna pursue communicating with the KBA again, going to a KBA meeting again and maybe trying to do it in a different way. That's just because if we're trying to connect with the small businesses, they will be present in that room. But if we ask someone to come here, it will be one person representing.
I have no disagreement with that, but I went to the meeting. And so, yeah, I mean,
Maybe you're just too intimidating.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, people say they like you.
Can you buzz yours up? Looking at this list, I got a couple of questions for you. You have municipal agent for the elderly and senior citizens. Do we know who that person is?
we had okay, I've got to look at my notes again there. Who was it? Who was that? Ted? Was it you that was organizing to meet with the senior citizens groups? They were gonna come and address us. And then for the last two meetings, they couldn't make it. They said, oh, we're sorry, we'll come to your next meeting,
Are we talking about the housing?
The Housing Authority, yes.
That's the one I've been chasing, I still am chasing.
Sorry. That come or not?
I will ask again. There was an illness, and they feel that she felt that there was another representative that was critical to, and I want to say it was maybe the executive director. And I believe there was an illness involved. So, we're looking for April, but I'm kind of like, offer 3 times, that's as far as we're going. In the end, we talk about in the very beginning, we've asked.
Yeah.
And as long as we can say we've asked as many folks as we can.
You have listed here historic. You have listed here the Historic District Commission. Is that a person? Because we have 2 people from
Just
the
gonna say
historic
that's
stuff
just-
right here.
No.
Yep.
He's embedded.
Sorry, we are from the Historical Society. The Historic Commission, as I understand it, is the one that looks at these districts and determines which buildings are historic and which are not. So that is different to what the society does, which is a genealogical historic society. I don't know what to say. Do we need them or not?
I think Patrick had said, like, it's better, it's good to be invited, right? I think everybody on here should at least have an opportunity to be invited and not show up, right? I think and you've got a deadline now, which is to say, put out an open call. We have until the end of May to meet with you. Here's our meeting, sign up. If they choose not to, that's on them.
So are you suggesting to all these groups, we put out an invitation and say, folks, we have the next 2 or 3 meetings, that we are prepared to meet with them at different times on our own during the week if they cannot make, as we've done with a couple of other groups, as part of the invitation?
We could give them our public meetings
Yes.
as an option and
Yes.
extend the offer to meet with them at one of their meetings, but it has to be done by May 31st.
Yes, has to be done by.
Has to be done by May 31st, right?
Wonderful, very good idea. I've added one small thing, Jay Lee, because a comment was made at the Business Association, and it was brought up at the meeting, question tonight, about some business owners who are not in town, but so they couldn't be on the commission and all that, and they felt that they had been left out. I told Jay Lee, please to tell them, come to us. We'll talk to you. Bring your 5 members in. Or if you want us to come to you, I'll go and talk to
That's a
them.
different thing.
So the same thing is, we're giving them the option. If they don't pick it up, then they don't. Everybody agrees?
I had spoken with Ashley about it before, and she had said that there is a way to vote to be able to have business owners that don't live in town but have a business in town be on a vision committee.
I personally think it's too late for that.
It is.
I would
There's
say
no,
so.
there's no way they can catch up. And for the future,
Yeah,
that's
for
something
the future, that's all.
to remember. Okay. Nonetheless, they are still welcome to talk to us. Would appreciate it if they do, okay? Good, this sounds wonderful to me.
I want to
Sorry, Richard?
response. Jay Lee mentioned that we should go back to them, and I happen to think that that is the right course of action, because if we had a list of things that we want to accomplish that will help them, I think that would be beneficial to get that kind of feedback in real time versus having one person here. For example, one idea I had was to bypass Route 12. If people got onto the highway in a certain area and they got off at Killingly Commons, maybe certain stores and businesses in town would give them a discount, because Route 12 is our nemesis in terms of developing downtown. Well, I think we should go to them. I'd be willing to go.
When is there a meeting, April or May?
It's the KBA meeting's the first Thursday of every month at 8:30 a.m. at the Killingly Public Library. There is an agenda. I can request that we be put on it, but there is also a time at the end of every meeting for anybody to say whatever announcements they want. So this actually might be the difference between the last meeting and like going into this other meeting. If we can get on the agenda like a separate, it might be more effective.
Who,
Business people love agendas.
will you organize that, or should I organize that?
I can definitely ask. I can't like say, oh yeah, we're definitely going to get on there, but I'll definitely ask.
Should I contact the president and ask to be put on the agenda?
Sure, you can. Yeah.
All right, I'll make a note to do that.
I will also be at the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Folks, what is not on this list that you said, oh my God, we really should do?
Okay, the microphone works better when I press the button. You mentioned businesses that you were reaching out to, and I'm not sure which ones. Now, there was a list in the one of the reports that had almost all the big businesses except Loose. And I didn't know if that letter is going to go out to those businesses.
My thought was to not just do a letter dump by any means. I was looking to maybe target some employers, giving mine time, their time, ours. You know, I was going to look at Cold Plastics. I was going to ask Cold Plastics. I was going to ask Spiral. I was going to ask Frito-Lay. In terms of if we can get some time, the target or the goal is to at least start it with the HR door. And they would have an idea in terms, HR will have an idea of they're a little bit more aware in terms of hiring, retention, things along those type of things that are kind of important to a community. But I was going to start with those three. I am certainly open to other folks. I don't have time to blast 6, 8, 12. I'm saying that's where you're going. But I am open to suggestions. Those are the ones that I go by. Yeah, my thought was at least those were the three I was going to start.
Staples is a very community-oriented company.
The distribution center?
Yes, the distribution center. They're involved with my coffee house
Okay.
for, we do
So if you have a contact there, I think it'd be great to share.
I can try, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we do school supplies every fall. They're our major contributor for school supplies for the schools in the area. We have our food share that we do. We get stuff from them for the food share.
I think
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I understand can be a double-edged sword. You know,
Yeah.
we asked, but they didn't respond or anything along those lines.
Well,
And this is not
I
looking
will-
to do that.
I
It's
will
like a
reach
thing.
out.
People know people, it just goes better. You know,
Yeah.
like,
I'll reach
the
out to
letter
the
was
contact.
to answer the question why.
Okay,
Why
you'll
do
do. Paul, just a quick question.
Sure.
This municipal agent for the elderly and senior citizens, is that somebody different to the housing? Who is that?
I don't know where that came from.
It's from the list that was provided by the town to us of all these groups.
Okay. No, I don't.
I'll ask, I'll check with, I think I'll check with the town to see what are these groups, do we really, okay, folks, that's
Ashley
fine.
Pino.
Now, quickly tell us, please, Fred, where are you moving with the fire chiefs and the meetings, okay?
Not getting a lot of cooperation.
The snow's gone.
I'm working, I'm finding out that even though and I may be not entirely right, but even though these guys are the chiefs of the department, they have boards of directors. So far, the ones I've reached out to have told me that they got my email, but they forwarded to their board of directors and they'll get back to me. And no one's gotten back yet. So I will be working on that going forward.
Give them a deadline.
Well, now I have a deadline, May 31st.
Also, while you're talking,
Yeah.
tell me about input from veterans. You want input from veterans.
Since it's the town of Killingly, you want to reach out, or I can do it for you. We need to reach out. There is a Veterans Council in Killingly, and they are comprised of your American Legion leaders, your VFW leaders. They form a Veterans Council. I don't know who's in charge of it right now, but I can find out.
Please, since you are involved with veterans a lot, you know
Yes,
people.
I am.
So if you would do that, please, Fred.
Yep.
You move
But
that
that's
forward.
who you want, like, at my coffee house, I get more veterans than anybody else. Sometimes I have 100 at the coffee house on a Tuesday morning. I've had as high as 118, but they're from the whole region. Any day that I get 100 of them there might be 20 from Killingly, or there might be 5 from Killingly. So you want the Veterans Council to get the input for the Killingly veterans. All right, and I'll reach out to my contact at Staples, and no guarantee on that, but I know who to
No guarantee on
contact.
any of these.
And then I'll reach out to the Veterans Council
Okay, all right.
with the May 31st deadline.
Let me just quickly move forward. I think we're pretty much agreed on this so far. If you look at the back of your pages and documents, you will see what Glenn put together. I think it was very nice, the social services group, okay? Just a report on the meeting that we went there, and there it is, okay? It was a nice meeting. They gave us a lot of good feedback. Of course, a lot of it concerned with homeless and the difficulties of housing, et cetera, which are certainly factors we have to be aware of. So,
But what was interesting from that meeting was the common.
I'm sorry, Paul, you put it together, wasn't it?
Yeah,
This
but
list.
what I found interesting about the meeting was the constant theme of the lack of communication and coordination between the service groups.
Absolutely.
And to me, I think as a community, we should somehow figure out a way to foster that one way or the other, at least create the culture where we as a community are all kind of in this together, and if you got one organization that's doing food over here, I think they brought up the example of you have a food bank that's overflowing, and you have another food bank that, like down the road, that's got nothing on the shelves. And it was just kind of interesting to hear that's a problem that they run across.
I can address part of that. Some food banks have refrigeration,
Oh, I
and
agree.
some don't.
Oh, I understand
So
that.
sometimes,
Yep.
we run the one up at the farmer's market the first Thursday of the month, which is why I can't be at that meeting with the PBA, or the Killingly Business Association. But, a lot of times, in the early days, we would get offered frozen food. So we had to go out and buy freezers and find a place to keep them. And it's like, if I have frozen food left over, some food banks will take it, some it's like, don't even call us because we don't have refrigeration. So there isn't a really good communication, but part of it also is they're not all the same.
Well, what struck me about this list that you'll see on the back it wasn't focused on just the homelessness. There was, the number one thing they said, just more kindness, which kind of hit me because that was number one, what do we need?
Yeah.
And then, number two item was we should capitalize on a waterfront. So, it wasn't just a narrow tunnel vision of scope, and it was everywhere from certainly immediate needs, mobile food, distribution, laundry services, et cetera, but it was good. It wasn't just a single agenda. So there's some pretty good ideas. I asked Ashley to actually put them in as part of the responses so that they can get taken and accounted for in here. So it was time well spent.
Let me just add something to that. You are correct. Throughout this town, there is very little coordination of practically anything. The educators don't speak to each other. The social service groups don't speak to each other. And I'm noticing it more and more, and that is certainly something that I've made a note of that we, in our report, should recommend, suggest, whatever wording to be used, I'm not sure yet. I'm just going to step forward once moment into just a thought, because the question did come up here after the Vision Committee, what then? My thinking has been, and I have not spoken to the town manager or anybody yet, is to suggest that we would stay on for another 6 months to help them implement. Not to do it, there might be a group you need to form to get this moving. The town doesn't have the staff or anybody to do any of that. It's not going to happen. So if we could be assistants to the town to come up with plans on how to do stuff, I think that could be helpful to them, and it gives us a chance to start to implement some of those things. So that's a thought. I have not checked it with the town manager, and I personally cannot see that there should be a huge objection to say, folks, we can help you afterwards. It's not all on you. That's my thought.
I'm struggling a little bit with understanding what you mean by that, but I'm gonna hold off until we develop. Because I remember when we were given this, we were kind of given
There's 4 things, yes.
and provide us guidelines for how we maybe do zoning, how we do zoning, or maybe how we do business approval or tax breaks or whatever. It was kind of like the citizens were going to provide the rails for them to drive in, and I never really looked at this as a commission or a committee of it's going to sound bad, action or implementation. That's so I'd be interested in seeing what they think of all of that.
It's a thought, sorry. It's a thought largely because, as I thought about it, the town doesn't have the staff to do a lot of the things that we might suggest. For a very small example, forming an arts council like Putnam has to start getting events going. Well, you get a group together. Now, to ask the town to form a group, I'm not sure they would do it. We can do it if we are afterwards there. We're amongst us. We can arrange to. I give it to you as a thought for thinking, and I'll run it through the town manager. It's just one of the points that I think the consultant made and others make is to say to the town, how can we help you? This to me seemed a way that we can help the town implement. Just a thought. Okay?
Thank you.
One final item. You wanted to speak a little bit more about the egg hunt. I made some notes to you about that, but go ahead quick. Say what it is you're still thinking, and if you mind, excuse me. One of my thoughts was, what will we get out of this?
Yeah.
Other than just providing them with baskets?
Yeah.
Okay?
I don't know if you want me to answer that first, but I did have 2 things for what we were talking about before. Is that okay? Okay. So I know that Richard was in the process of making a website. Is that, because that's something I thought we should talk about for really quickly. I don't know. Okay.
Well,
The more I have done research about different calendars and talked to people such as the Chamber of Commerce, I'm beginning to think that the website should be put on hold and directed to the town of Killingly. And also, I mentioned to Ashley, it'd be nice if the town could purchase the 2 domain names because they're gonna be directing traffic there, but also it gives them a chance in the future to separate it. But the maintenance part is the most difficult. And so, and even though, I had an email out there, I haven't really had any response. So I think it's best that we try to assist the town by directing traffic, and having different websites come up that goes to the town will make sure that the town becomes a central point. Because when I start typing in Killingly activities, I'll come to my site, Killingly Happenings, and that goes to my Killingly. So they could be set up in different ways. It's not really an expense, it's just more of a resource of man hours or people hours.
The reason that I had thought of that is because we were talking about having different groups in the same categories, like different food pantries, have one place to be able to like communicate. So I was thinking that if there were different categories of the same types of organizations, like churches, the one-stop shop could be for events on the town page, and then also one for like categories of organizations, so they could go and that's where my train of thought went with that.
Now, that is along the lines of what I said. Now, maybe the reality is, and a lot of people asked, why do we need another site? Because the town is just getting going. And it may not be ideal, but it does have the information that we're looking for. And if not, a very quick Google search does work. The other item I did when I was testing some programs is I created an AI script that would load a web page with activities that were taking place in town, and it always went up to Putnam as well. So I wasn't able to really differentiate that. But I hate to say it, but with AI, sometimes you just ask your computer, what should I do today?
Okay, so we're not gonna do the website. We're gonna put it on hold. I just was confused about that part.
I think we're gonna put it on hold, meaning it can always be live because the traffic that it gets will go through that. I could potentially also put a handful of categories on there static, even though it would direct through to the town website after.
Richard, if I may make a suggestion, perhaps if you and Jaylee can talk to each other and work it out, whatever you think is best, the way to go. All right?
It sounds, yes.
Two of you talk together.
Yes, and
Okay.
I did have the other thing that we were talking about. We were talking about like the events and a committee for the town to have events. The KBA does have a committee to do events for the town, and we do that. So I don't know if there's something with the town that they want to collaborate, but we've been like for the Easter egg hunt that we'll transition into that because I know that's the last thing you asked me. It's at Westfield. Westfield is the person or the people that are like filling the eggs, and we're gonna be like putting the Easter eggs out. And we also have KPRD involved. They're doing raffles, the Elks, and the library's gonna be there. Did I already say that? Library, Elks, and then who else? Oh, and the KBA gives out crayons and coloring books. So it's kind of like the benefit to us. I see it as presence in the community and exposure to kind of like what we're doing when we leave the surveys places. Like, this is who we are. Like when we also like community outreach when we were at the, was it not Celebrate Killingly, the community event at the school, the high school. And I feel like that if we, you know, give a raffle or something away, it's just adding kindness and good, kind of like there's need for more kindness within the community. Like that's us doing that while getting information. Yes.
Let me just say that Julie mentioned this to me, which is on the agenda. I'm just going to raise some questions. What is the benefit to us of putting out a basket other than kindness, which is nice? Are we in the basis of doing that, or are we there to try and get some good information? And are we going to hand out flyers? Are we going to hand out questions? Are we going to and in all reality, when people are there with their kids searching for eggs, are we really going to get any responses? I've got to be honest and ask these questions, okay?
I'm glad that you did because it is chaos. You are right with that. It's over 11,000 Easter eggs. Donna knows. So, yeah. So, and I've, you know, with the church done the eggs and filled the eggs and put the eggs out and also handed out the crayons and coloring books for the KBA. But if there's something like the raffles, the bikes, what we hand out for the KBA, the kids come up to you and the parents come up to you to get the free stuff. So if they see the Easter baskets to win, when they come up to do that, they can also like scan the survey, like kind of like when we're giving away those little gifts at the other event to kind of like, you know, draw the kids and draw the people in. And then at the same time, oh, by the way, can you give us your opinion on this? But the other thing, kind of like what Fred was saying with the veterans, not everybody that comes to the Easter egg hunt is going to be from Killingly. I did want to mention that too.
I open it up to discussion. Is this something that we should do at this point, or do we feel, other than kindness, it's not necessarily going to give us much further data than what we have already?
Maybe not data, but kindness, especially if we're able to make a contribution towards eggs or some of the other expenses that go along with it. It could in part say sponsored by, or in part sponsored by, the Vision Committee. And on the back of that little card or what have you, it could have the QR code. And the parents might be interested in clicking on it.
Did I hear that there was going to be raffling off baskets or something like that? Is that what I heard?
I had, I guess, an idea to contribute because the Elks and the KPRD have bicycles that they raffle off and they give away to the kids. And the KBA just gives away coloring books and crayons. So my idea was I could get like a themed Easter basket, maybe like, I don't know, for a certain age, or like a girl's basket or a boy's basket, and get it like just two. And but the thing is, I'm gonna say this, I'm not gonna be able to do this event. I can help prepare and set up, but I'm already going to be working the KBA tent at this event. So if somebody else is willing to work it, I can get the stuff to set up for it. Like I'm willing to go and like get everything set up. And I do have raffle tickets. Like I already have some that we can use.
You know, I don't even know when the event is, so I apologize. I'm outside of that demographic, I think. The 28th?
It's a Saturday. At 10 in the morning.
I mean, I have no problem attending. And I don't mind, in my opinion, the Vision Committee using part of the budget to fund a couple of baskets for raffles. I thought I was listening to a blanket donation, and which I'm not sure I'm particularly comfortable with. because it's taxpayers' money that were given to us. For everything else I heard is a lot of private stuff. But at the same time, though, I don't kind of like the idea of, fund a vision committee Easter baskets or something, and then maybe get some kind of feedback. I don't, like I said, I'm May 28th, I have no, March 20th, I have no problem being there and trying to work that. I'm assuming you're gonna go with BJ's or something like that to go get something that's got some things in it.
I was looking around and like there are, less expensive options. Like you can get anything at the dollar store. But if you want to get something a little bit nicer, but not too expensive, TJ Maxx. Like I've been looking and keeping my eyes on things. So
I think my big thing is no assembly required.
I can set it up.
Okay.
I like doing stuff like that.
Show up.
Vera, if you're gonna do this, you'll be responsible for handing out the raffle tickets and all that kind of stuff that goes. You'll tell them how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if we had one other person there, just to kind of,
Yeah, I can't guarantee. I don't know if anybody else
But
can.
I'll give it a shot. I don't see it being a point of controversy.
What if we have one person doing the raffle tickets, but then another person that's either doing the QR code
That's
or
just it. I'm trying to do that.
or even
Right.
having a piece of paper that's like, oh, well, while you're doing this raffle ticket, why don't you fill this out while
While you're using the pen.
exactly.
The top part of the paper is their receipt, rather than tickets.
Yeah.
It has a QR code. So
I
you
think-
have to keep it with them.
I mean, I'll check, but I think it might be free.
Okay.
So,
Why don't we talk on this, try to put that together, because of the logistics of what you just mentioned.
We're getting yelled at.
Oh,
so you're also gonna organize some form of some sort to get them to give information back to us.
I would agree, and that's, I think that's fairly straightforward. I can take what we have, what I would like to have. Thought I had a radio voice.
You do.
What I thought we would do is we would need at least a table, small one, but I'd like to have the banner.
And we have the banner.
To at least people know who these people are, handing candy out or whatever it might be.
It's not a long event either. I would maybe just only set aside maybe an hour because just to get there set up and then be there and then stay a little bit after when people are, going back to their cars and helping to clean up the eggs. And I did talk to Jonathan, and he said it was okay if we wanted to do it because Westfield is the one that's like hosting the event.
Okay.
So he did say it was okay. And there's one more thing, and I don't. Oh, if I get the stuff, do I just like bring you the receipt and get reimbursed? How does that work?
Go ahead, Fred.
You will need to coordinate with Jonathan, because I'm sure he's gonna want that table and that banner put in a spot. He's not gonna want you to just willy-nilly put it where you want.
I don't willy-nilly tables.
But you know what
But
I'm saying.
I will coordinate with Jonathan. I'll shoot him an email and just, let him know.
All right, just,
And I'll copy you on it, Frank. I'll name drop.
that's fine. I just want to clarify that it's all in order. You will work with Jay Lee.
Mm-hmm.
You will arrange for the banner, a table, and the tickets, and the afterwards who gets the prize based on this raffle,
Mm-hmm.
and some form of communication that they will give us back for our vision committee when they go up to the table, et cetera.
If you want me to shake them down for a raffle ticket, I'll try. But I think
If you
the-
shake them down and get really good information.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. There's a price to everything, and in your opinion,
I'm
is
just
part of it.
trying to see that you realize what it is you're getting into.
Oh, I
that you
understand what
know.
I'm getting into.
Okay, all
I
right, okay.
understand what I'm getting into.
You might want to get there a little bit early because parking. I'm gonna be there probably like a half an hour early because it gets a little bit wild.
I think Sarah, you and I can communicate. We can coordinate. Certainly, you work with you, and I'll send an email to Jonathan tomorrow because. I think the big thing is the table. 'Cause that
Okay,
banner's a
all right.
pretty good size banner, and I think it's.
Did you want to say something,
Well, I
Sarah?
think it's a good idea too if we get our table to be near like if there is a table for kids to color the coloring books at, because while the kids are busy, the parents will go ahead, be right near us, do the raffle tickets, but then also have that 2 minutes aside with not their kid to sit and fill that out.
Will you be able to be there?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I just checked,
Oh,
so
good.
I can go.
You can work together.
That's why
and
I
with
was so
Jenny.
relaxed and open to doing it.
Fantastic. Thank you
But what
so
I
much
just
for
heard,
doing that.
somebody's got some flea market
Okay.
experience.
If I had a bunny suit, I'd bring it, but I don't.
Okay. I need to know roughly the cost that you think you're going to incur here for a basket or whatever.
I was thinking at the most 60 per basket, but I can probably do between 40 and 50, but depending on,
you
I want to
say-
get nicer stuff, not like crap.
You say per basket, how many baskets?
Just two.
You do what, boy on boy, one girl, or how are you going to do that?
That's what I was thinking.
So you're talking maybe $120?
Yeah,
How
no
do
more
people-
than that.
How do people feel about that?
I'm okay with that.
Everybody's okay with that?
I'm more concerned about how you're gonna get this information back. Are you gonna use a QR code on something? You're gonna
I would
have-
like to do a QR code, but also physical paper.
All
I'd
right.
like to have both if possible.
We don't have a lot of time to coordinate that.
It's it's a.
We
No.
have a QR code.
So I'll take that and then I can print some extra copies of the
Okay, yeah.
questions that they can write on.
Okay.
Can one of you, maybe Richard, can you get Sarah the code that she has it? Because she doesn't have it yet. Okay. So that-
One right on the wall outside.
And, okay, so that's good. Is there anything else we
I
need
know,
to think?
until your clock's going.
Is there anything else we need to think about in this topic?
No.
Is it all agreed that this is what we do? Do we need a motion for this at all, do you think?
Nah.
Because it's an expenditure? Yeah, maybe somebody would make a motion, please, including the expenditure.
I'll make a motion.
Who? You'll make the motion?
Yeah. I'll make a motion to have a budget for $120 at the top to be able, for me to get 2 baskets to raffle off for the children at the Easter egg hunt.
Second it.
Richard, second, thank you.
All in favor?
All in favor? We're all
Aye.
agreed? Unanimous, thank you, that's very nice. Is there, I think we've covered most of this. Is there anything else on the agenda that we ought to be talking about at this point?
I have something.
Please, I was gonna come to citizens. Yes? Oh, sorry, somebody else said. Oh, you said, sorry, I heard a voice.
We had a realtor speak here before. Was it the last? No, I wasn't here last meeting, 2 meetings ago. So I did, I have something to read. I had emailed it to you and Ashley in advance, but is it okay if I read it? It's from Amy Brunette. She's the realtor that actually has her business in town and she lives in town. Is that okay? It's 9 items. Really quickly, I can read it if you want me to. If not,
It's a-
that's
it's a
fine.
fairly- Yeah, it's fairly short, so
It
read
is,
it,
okay.
it's to the point, and
Yes.
state what it is.
Okay, so reasons why people buy homes in Killingly. So located in the scenic, quiet corner of Connecticut, buyers enjoy the nature, open space, and tranquility East and South Killingly offer. Homes with vast acreage are still obtainable in Killingly. Enjoy affordable home ownership compared to many other Connecticut towns. Killingly remains more affordable than some of its neighboring towns and offers similar style of living. Convenient access to major routes for commuting to Providence, Hartford, and Worcester. Buyers from Rhode Island and Mass often buy in Killingly because of its commuter friendliness. Close to shopping, dining, and services in the village of Dayville. Nearby outdoor recreation include hiking, fishing, boating, and wildlife at our rivers and parks. Strong sense of community with local events and town services. Neighbors know each other and band together with immense pride for Killingly. Ideal location for those seeking space, privacy, and a quieter lifestyle. Investors buying multifamily buildings or commercial properties get more value in Killingly compared to other towns and find a large rental opportunity with the amount of jobs here. Our high school is a large draw to families moving to Killingly. With state championship sports and world-renowned programs like robotics, our high school offers a variety of programming attractive to families.
Thank you for that, and it is, we've been looking for Realtor input. We got the one person who was semi from Massachusetts, who had a certain point of view. This is another point of view, which is good to show the other side.
So thank you to Amy Burnett for that.
Okay. Are there any other topics for tonight?
Who's with the KBA, correct?
Sorry.
She is a past president of
Yes,
KBA,
no,
and
I'll
she
get-
is
I'll
on
get
the
to the
executive
KBA.
committee.
Yeah, I'll go to the
Throw
KBA.
that in there.
Okay.
I wanna go home.
Make a motion.
Yeah, I
make
move to
a
adjourn.
motion, we go home.
I second that.
Make a
I make a motion, we end the meeting.
Second.
Second, Glenn, thank you. Thank you, folks. As usual, a lively discussion tonight. Oh, we got some